All right, looks like we are live for our 3 o'clock live stream. All right. If you're joining, please give me a little comment. Let me know if our sound is okay, if you can hear okay, if you can see okay. Doesn't look like we have anybody quite joining yet. Aha! There's some numbers popping up, so hopefully you can see and hear okay. So go ahead and get started and just say, hello everyone, my name is Kyle. I am a park interpretive specialist with California State Parks, and today I am at Humboldt Redwoods State Park. I'm at the Garden Clubs of America Grove. This is right off of the Avenue of the Giants, again in Humboldt Redwoods State Park, right on the Eel River. So what we're going to be doing today is just a little bit of stream exploration. What I want to promote today is giving you guys kind of the tools and some advice on if you're just wanting to check out some stuff near the water, but you don't necessarily know what you're looking for. I have kind of I've fallen in love with all of these insects that live in the water. There are so many species that start their life cycle in the water, and then they go through some incomplete metamorphosis to come out of the water and eventually be something flying around. Some of the insects that do this that you might be very familiar with are dragonflies, damselflies, mayflies, stoneflies, all of these flying creatures. Mosquitoes even start their life in the water and eventually come out to be these flying around insects. So there's a whole ton of things that start their life cycle in the water, and I just think they're really fascinating to see in their habitat, in their natural habitat when they're swimming. I did a program on some of these aquatic macroinvertebrates, insects in the water, a couple of weeks ago, but I used all kinds of fancy equipment. I gathered a sample and I showed off some of those insects. So what I'd like to do today is, instead of using all this fancy equipment, I want to show you some tools that are accessible to everyone, and just how to kind of spot these things when you're looking around in the water. So here we are. We're right on the banks of the river. This is the Eel River once again. And you can see well, hopefully you can see. I'm not sure how good the quality is on this live stream, but I can see just by looking out into the water, I can see a number of fish swimming around out there. So if you can see those little ripples and those little shadows moving around, there's a number of fish. And oftentimes one of the best ways to find fish swimming out in the water is by looking for their shadows. So a lot of the fish you can spot actually by looking for their shadows before you can see them looking for the actual species. Bud says he sees a rock. Hopefully you can see some rocks too. Trying to get you in on a fish, but they're swimming so fast. We'll move a little bit upstream and hopefully we'll see some more. So I have just kind of spent a little bit of time on these banks, but what I really want to encourage you is that find a space where you can spend a lot of time. The longer that you spend in an outdoor space, kind of looking at the same thing over and over again, the more you start to notice the little changes with it, and the more you can start to notice you know, what's different or what lives there. For me, I've been looking at things that I thought was you know, just part of the non-living environment, like a rock, and I found out that it was an animal just by spending some time looking at it. So I can see here, I'm not sure how well you guys can see because it's a little bit shady over here, but just looking into the stream here, I can see all of these streaks along the bottom, and that just tells us that there's something living. There's something moving around in the sand and moving around there. That could be tracks from the fish. That could also be tracks from different insects moving around on the bottom of the water. Thank you, Kim. Yes, Sacramento pike minnow. I saw that comment. The minnows, Sacramento pike minnow is mostly what we are seeing in the waters here, those tiny little fish you see swimming around. But we do also have potential to have salmon in the stream here. So I'm gonna go in a little bit close and just see if we can see anything. I did a little bit of scouting ahead of time and I didn't see a whole lot of stuff, but I saw some things, and then I brought some pictures and some other visuals so that way you guys can see. I did just see a water penny swim away, a type of beetle that lives in the water. Unfortunately, I couldn't get the camera on it fast enough for you guys to see it, but it looks just kind of like a little circle. Doesn't look like too much. If you flip it over, you can see the beetle parts. For finding these insects and macroinvertebrates, I personally like to look along rocky areas. They're pretty easy to see, and you can also flip over the rocks to look for them. But it is really important that if you're flipping over rocks, you want to always make sure that you put it back in the same place, because there is probably some organisms living under there, and you don't want to disturb their habitat where they're living. Awesome. So on here, let's see if we can get that in focus. Yeah, looks like we have some flatworms. You see that guy wiggling around there. A couple of them there wiggling around the rock, couple flatworms. Love it. Let's move on. And this time of the year, a lot of those invertebrates are emerging, meaning that they're leaving the water and going onto the portion of their life that they spend on land. So again, dragonflies do this. Mayflies are one of the most extreme examples. They spend about 364 days in the water, and they get one day, one single day, to come out of the water and find a mate and complete their life cycle. Sorry, I had a bug there and it flew away. Robin says she'd be upset if somebody moved her house. Me too. So we want to always make sure that we put back the rocks if we move them, because there are organisms living there. And that's their house. We should always put it back. One organism that's usually pretty easy to find are Caddisfly larvae. They make kind of a elongated tube, and they can make it out of rocks, or they can live right inside of a branch or woody debris. I've been looking for them, but I actually haven't seen any over here, despite they're pretty common. And keep in mind too that there is life not just in pristine redwood streams like this one, but you know, you can find organisms living even in sewage puddles and things like that. If they last long enough, you usually can find small life even in those places. So let me show you, before we get too much further along, what else I have here that I have brought with me. Big thanks to all of the staff here at Humboldt Redwoods for letting me borrow some of their toys and then goodies here. So this here has a bunch of the exoskeletons, essentially, that we're looking for. So these right here are the dragonfly nymphs, these big kind of beetle looking things, and we have an adult dragonfly right next to it. So again, dragonflies spend a good portion of their life in the water, 5 to 7 years for some species. Then we have the stonefly next to them. These things also spend their life, a good portion of their life in the water. You see the nymphs on the right hand side, and then on the left hand side, that's the adult there. And stonefly are one species that is really particular about the water conditions that they live in. And that's something really cool that these macroinvertebrates can do for us, is tell us the health of a body of water just by looking what lives there. So stonefly are really particular about the environment that they live in. So if you find stonefly living in a stream, it's pretty likely that that's a healthy body of water. See Kim asking if I am at Burlington. I'm close to Burlington. I'm at the Garden Clubs of America Grove. Just a little water down there. Then we've got the Damselfly nymphs. So really quick, I wanted to show the difference between damselflies and dragonflies. You can see that the nymphs, there's the Damselfly nymph. Again, they're broken apart because it's an exoskeleton. They emerged from that. The actual organism left that behind. So that's the damselfly. Here's the dragonfly nymph. So you can see that they look pretty different in their nymph phase, but as adults, they often get mistaken for each other. There we go. So we have a dragonfly and a damselfly here. One of the easiest ways to tell the difference between these two species is by how they lay their wings when they're resting. So if you look at the dragonfly on the left, you can see that when it's resting, its wings are splayed out all flat and long. But the damselfly, when it's rest, they close them up along their body or hold them up in the air. And you can tell just from the body shape, dragonflies tend to be a lot thicker and just bigger organisms, where the damselflies tend to be a little bit more dainty. Awesome. So I did see some old exoskeletons, some of the nymphs around. So let me see if I can find some more. I saw somebody in the comments said to go left. So I will keep walking and give you some beautiful visuals while I check out some of these comments as well, just to see if we had any questions so far. Hello to everyone saying hello. Kim said, if you get into the water and walk around, the fish will follow you because you're stirring up sediment, and things that they eat lives in the sediment, so they'll follow you around, bump into your legs, and eat all of the things that you're kicking up. We'll also say if you sit in the river long enough, they'll start to nibble at some of your dead skin on your legs and stuff like that. A little bit of an exfoliant for free, just for hanging out in the river. Thanks, minnows. All right, I'm gonna walk back over to where I definitely saw a couple of nymphs exoskeletons sitting outside of the water. And so I can show you some in their natural habitat. Okay. Watch out for Bigfoot, says Sandra. Do you ever look at water under a microscope was one of our questions. And I will say that this is how I got started with this love for checking out things in the water. There are so many tiny little organisms besides these macroinvertebrates. Macro meaning that they're big enough we can see them with our eyes, right? So these macroinvertebrates are what are really great to look at just for, you know, anybody who wants to do a little bit of stream exploration and see some cool bugs. Can check it out and see these macroinvertebrates. Although I am having a little bit of trouble today. But if you do have access to a microscope, you can really take a good look at this water and see all of the tiny little organisms living in there, because the plankton, these microscopic organisms, are really the base for the food chain in all aquatic environments. You have phytoplankton, which are water-based plankton. Ooh, I'm getting a good damselfly flying around me right here. Let me see if I can get it in before it flies away. Oh man, it's gone. I'm so sorry. Got a lot of glare on my camera too. It's a beautiful sunny day out here. It's a little bit hard for me to see what you're seeing. Okay, right on the other side of this beautiful seasonal bridge, there was a ton of dragonfly exoskeletons. So let's see if I can find some of those again. Lampreys. What about lamprey nibbles, asked somebody. I hope to never be nibbled by a lamprey. They freak me out. I think they're so cool, but I don't really want to get bitten by one or nibbled on by one. Lampreys, for anyone who does not know, are the fish that the Eel River was named after. They're these really elongated, kind of prehistoric looking fish that got mistaken for eels when European people were first coming up to the area. And so they named the river the Eel River, even though the only eel looking thing here is that lamprey. Aha! Okay, got one of the exoskeletons right here from a dragonfly nymph. It's a little crunchy. Oh, sorry. Let's see if we can. So you can see it's kind of wings that have gotten started there. They don't spread out their wings until they come out of the water. And they have lungs inside of that abdomen there. Pretty cool. Cool looking caddisfly egg masses, says Kim. She found down here. That's pretty cool. So that sound, Lorena, of me walking around is the rocks moving. It's a lot of loose river rocks. A lot of great skipping rocks, actually. And those are all shifting around as I'm walking. It's a very nice scenic area. Can you show the tall redwoods? Asks Mark Graham. Of course I can, Mark. Check out those tall redwoods. It's a beautiful, beautiful day here. I am in Humboldt, southern Humboldt, not super south, but Humboldt redwoods. You're asking about the temperature. I would think it's somewhere around the 80s right now. It's pretty toasty, but living up in Northern California, I'm kind of used to the 70s temperature range, so anytime we break out of that, I start getting hot. What's the bug that left to the left of the exoskeleton? Oh, I'm sorry, Kim. I moved. Let me see if there is... Whoa. Looks like whatever was there moved, unfortunately. There was a number of water skiers on in the water, the little bugs that use surface tension to suspend themselves. So let's go here. It's nice and murky, and we have some exoskeletons around the area. So let's just take a look at some of the rocks here and see if we have anything. '94 in Redway. Oh my goodness. I'm really happy I'm not down in Redway. Ever since I moved up to Northern California, I can't really handle the heat. It gets hot and I turn into a wimp. There is a really big snail right there. hanging out in the algae, getting a good snack. Ah, David Villapando is asking about the, I always call them puzzle piece rocks. In my understanding, David, if anybody is a geologist, they might have a better answer for you. But the rocks that fall apart like that are still in formation. So they're formed from sediment, from like river sediments and stuff, and they are partially formed, but they haven't basically fully turned into a rock yet. There's still clumps of sediment that are still forming into a rock. So that's what makes them so easy to break, is that they're not really fully together yet. Holy cow. Lots of heat going on in southern Humboldt. I was finding some egg masses earlier. I'm so sorry, you guys, that I'm not finding as much. We got a couple of fish darting around down here. Oh, I just saw a water penny duck under a rock right over here. It's looking like there's some stuff. Let's take a look. Ooh, looks like some egg masses on here. And I saw something really tiny just skirt around to the other side of the rock. Yeah, Braid's saying the heat, unacceptable. I agree. Too hot. Can't handle it. All right, I'm gonna walk back over. Let's take one more look at some of the great things that have been borrowed from Humboldt Redwoods, and then we'll wrap it up here for today. I really appreciate you guys all joining me for my little river adventure to see what we can see. And unfortunately, there was not a whole lot to see here today. Tons of fish swimming around. But I also didn't spend that long. If I sat in one place and took some time to see what I can see, flip over a couple of rocks, I'm sure we would find some stuff. But I don't think you all want to wait around while I sit in one spot and film the water for 20 minutes, as much as I'd enjoy it. So I had a question from Beck. It says, is that blue-green algae? Yes and no. So what makes up blue-green algae is actually microscopic cyanobacteria, is the part that makes you sick. And cyanobacteria is present in lichens and things like that. So it's a microscopic bacteria, cyanobacteria, that makes the blue-green algae. The blue-green algae is kind of a misnomer because it's not really algae, it's a bacteria that's making you sick. So you can't really see the presence of blue-green algae in water, but if there is a whole ton, a lot of algae, it's fairly safe to assume that the water is really warm, creating these algal blooms, and that helps blue-green algae to be present. So blue-green algae is, to my knowledge, is present right now down in Humboldt Redwoods. So just take caution if you are swimming in the water not to drink it, and not to let your dogs go in the water either, because it can make you sick, and it can make your animals sick as well. So I got a comment, you underestimate how little of outdoor times we're getting while quarantined in some areas. I do understand quarantine and not being able to get a lot of time to spend outside. And that is part of the reason why I'm trying to encourage that, you know, you can find some of this life even in you know, not these pristine bodies of water, but even in cities and things like that. Just a body of water, you can find some stuff living there. Just found another big old massive, oh look, we got a moth right underneath it too, interesting. But this big old dragonfly right here, and then we got a damselfly just came to visit. How about that? Landed right next to me. So that is a damselfly right there. You can see it holding its wings up at rest, just like that, right over here with our beautiful dragonfly. Excellent. So head back over here to all of our little toys and things like that. A question, I thought I saw a question. That it's hot. I love that you guys are sharing just how hot it is. It's very hot out. So it's very nice to be under the redwoods, right next to the water. I'm very lucky that I'm getting to spend the day doing that. Are there river spots that are safer this time of year? It's very dependent on the river, and the temperature is what leads it. So I know that this whole area kind of around this time of year, that the blue-green algae becomes present in a lot of the bodies of water. And that was true, I live down in the Bay Area, and that was true down there as well. kind of any closed areas. What does help break it up though is faster flowing currents, but then that makes for not as pleasant of a swimming hole. Okay, so again, wanted to show off, just we've got a whole great collection of all of these aquatic bugs. And then we have, was able to, I'm gonna set you down for just a second. Sorry about the view. I'll get this open. Sorry about the view. Okay, so I have this as well. I'm not gonna pull it all the way out, but just one of the staff down here found this right at the bank of the river. This is a crawfish, crawdad, crawfish, crawdad, crayfish, all kinds of different names, but otters love to eat these guys. They molt as well, so you'll sometimes find their molts along the banks of the river, and they live in freshwater, so you'll find them in freshwater. And then I got a number of tools I wanted to show off really quick. So we have, this is a great bug magnifying glass, where we were talking about you know, seeing some of the things in the water, or being able to even look up close at a water sample. This might be a great tool, and you can see some of the magnifying through there. Let's see if we can get it on one of our bugs real quick. That's a little tricky with all the angles, but oh, got a good look at some of the butterfly wings there. Pretty cool. People love to eat crawfish as well, definitely Robin. And then the other tool I want to show you guys, if you don't want something quite as big as that to do some magnifying, these are available on Amazon. This also has a light with it. Flips open, so it's got a case, a little bit of a magnifying glass. These are $5 on Amazon. So if you want a tool for kind of taking a closer look at some of these things and being able to see, you know, somewhat closer as you're exploring the banks or anywhere else that you're exploring, these are tools that are relatively inexpensive and can really, you know, make your experience a lot better, a lot more engaging. So I think that is all of the time of yours that I will take up. But I really just, again, want to encourage you guys to go out and do some exploring. Find a place, even if it's not by the water, just find a place in nature where you can spend some time and try to look for those changes, subtle differences, different species or different creatures that you see there. Through the year, there will be all kinds of changes in an area, and it's really rewarding to be able to have a place to do that, to be able to study somewhere and just create a bond, a connection with a natural place. It's pretty special. So I'm gonna go through just one more time and just make sure that we don't have any questions that we left unanswered. I know I wasn't looking at this a whole lot, and our glare on here is pretty intense today. I see fish, I see shadows, minnows. But thank you guys all for tuning in, for checking us out, for seeing these 3 o'clock live streams. Really quick, I do want to say just thank you to you all for doing your part to shelter in place, help flatten the curve of COVID-19. We're doing what we can out here as well to stay away from people, maintain the 6 feet, make sure that we're sanitizing any shared equipment, all of that good stuff. Braid, I don't know what your comment was. I just see I lied all on its own. Do we know which of the species is older? Seems like the wings being out would be less advantageous than wings along the body. That's a good question, David. I don't 100% know what came first, the damselfly or the dragonfly. I do know that dragonflies are revered as one of the top predators, especially in the insect world, that they catch and kill over 90% of their prey, which is a really high rating for any predator. That success rate, 90% success rate. And a large part of that is due to the fact that they have a 360-degree field of view. Because of the way that their eyes wrap around the back of their head, they can see in all directions at all times. So there's no way that they're ever going to miss where their prey has gone. So they're able to see it. Can't go behind them. They know it's there. They'll still eat it. I'll do a little bit of research, though, because that's a really interesting question. See if I can't get you a good answer. Odd-looking caddisfly green egg masses. Been seeing these green kind of bubbles all over the rock skim, and I'm not sure if they're algae or egg masses. But that's something I've been really interested in learning a little bit more about. Glad that the images were coming in good. That's great. How do they survive rolling down the river so that I can pick them up? It's a good question, David. I think in most cases the river is moving slow enough, especially in the Eel River, that it's not necessarily breaking apart the rocks. on the river banks or where they're forming, and that by the time you pick them up, you can crush them with your hand. Unacceptable. Any minks lately? Asked Megan. Yeah, I know that one of our staff down here captured a video of a mink, I think either last week, if not the week before. Definitely have mink out here. How deep did the water get in the winter? Asked Mark. Mark, you brought me to a whole thing I was going to talk about that I totally forgot. Just something I found really interesting about this river. So here, I'll flip this. You can see the banks, and the water probably doesn't get up too much high. You can see kind of the vegetation line right around here-ish. So this is kind of a flattish area. The river doesn't get too much higher, and it has a lot of floodplain over on this side to spread out. But this area has flooded before and occasionally gets really, really high water marks, even over the Avenue of Giants. And something that I found really interesting about this beach is that there's grapes growing all along the banks here. And that is because there was a winery in Myers Flat, a town nearby, that got taken out in one of the floods, and it spread the grape seeds all along the Eel River. So there's actually grapes growing along the bank right on the other side of these willow trees here. So I'll flip here and see if there are any more. Yes, definitely check for exoskeletons. Lorena, I'm not sure about the presence of freshwater clams in the Eel River. I know that there are freshwater clams in the area. I'm not sure if they're in the Eel River or not. Lots of thanks. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Really appreciate you guys being here time and time again. Andrea who has just asked, where is this? This is at the Garden Clubs of America Grove. This is pretty near Burlington and everything like that, and just down at the river. This is the Eel River, just right near that grove, off of the Avenue of the Giants in Humboldt Redwood State Park. Well, that will pretty much do it for me. Thank you again so much, you guys, for tuning in. Really, again, please do some exploration. See what you can find. If you find any cool exoskeletons, please send me a picture in the comments. I love to see the bugs, the insects, all the kinds of things that you're finding. If you have a nature spot that you're checking out, send me a picture of that as well. Your survey site. I'd love to see some pictures of the areas that you're getting some quality nature time, or some of the things that you're finding out there. I'd love for you guys to share those. So thank you again so much for tuning in. Really appreciate you guys being here time and time again for our 3 o'clock live streams. We're live every single day at 3 o'clock, so always feel free to check in. We've got these all archived on YouTube as well. If you want to check out any later streams, any previous streams, if you want to see our my big water bug talk, probably a couple months ago at this point, it's on there as well. And I think we're going to be talking about water bugs some more, and even showing you some footage of water bugs with our underwater camera. But for today, just wanted to do a little bit of underwater exploration, but lots more coming your way. Thank you again, you guys, and we will see you again tomorrow at 3 o'clock.